The evolution of humans. Human evolution is the evolutionary process within the history of primates that lead to the emergence of Homo sapiens as a distinct species of the hominid family that includes all the great apes. Who are we and where have we come from? The answer to this question is we are Homo sapiens, or the latest of human beings that live on the planet. There has been different lines of evolution for millions of years that has given rise to the old world monkeys, new world monkeys, the great apes, and different human species, including Homo sapiens, the current human species. This process involved the gradual development of traits such as human bipedalism, dexterity or wiseness due to large brain, and complex language. The study of human evolution involves several scientific disciplines that include physical and evolutionary anthropology, paleontology, and genetics. There was a lot of debates amongst biologists concerning the two traits of Homo sapiens, the very large brain or dexterity and bipedalism. Which of these came first? And they also have debates about exactly how this evolutionary tree has given rise to the various groups of human species. As we see, the new and modern evolutionary tree for primates diverged from other mammals about 85 million years ago in the late Cretaceous period from the earliest common ancestor, Proconsul. The earliest fossil for primates appear over 55 million years ago during the Paleocene period. Primates produced successive clades leading to the ape superfamily, which gave rise to the hominid and gibbon families, which diverged some 15 to 20 million years ago. The evolutionary history of the current primates like lemurs, lorises, tarsiers, New World monkey, Old World monkeys, and the great apes and humans can be traced back 65 million years. One of the oldest known primate like mammal species, Plesiadapis, came from North America and others, Archicephalus, came from China. And again, here is the evolutionary tree of humans and the great apes. You can see that at several points there are a common ancestors. This represents branching points in the evolutionary tree. At this point, it is assumed that an ancestral type became divided into at least two populations which subsequently evolved along different lines and lastly became distinct species. Orangutan, gorilla, chimpanzees, and humans evolved from one common ancestor that lived 13 million years ago. Gorilla, chimpanzee, bonobo, and humans evolved from one common ancestor that lived 8 million years ago. Chimpanzee, bonobo, and humans evolved from another recent common ancestor that lived 6 million years ago, and chimpanzee and bonobo diverged from one common ancestor that lived 3 million years ago. So far in this section, we have talked about all human species that belonged under the genus Homo, not only Homo sapiens, because there were other humans before us and before them, what we might call prehumans. Fossils of many of the species along the early part of the timeline were found in Ethiopia. We begin to see just how important our country, Ethiopia, has been in the evolution of humans. In this case, most scientists consider Ethiopia as indeed the cradle of mankind. What do hominin and hominid mean? Hominin means all members of the genus Homo that include Homo sapiens, Homo neanderthalensis, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo floresiensis, Homo erectus, and Homo habilis. Hominid means a group of species that includes all the species belong to the genus Homo along with other species of human family that include Sahelanthropus chadensis, Ardipithecus cadava, Ororhyntogenesis, Ardipithecus ramidus, Australopithecus anamensis, Australopithecus afarensis, Australopithecus garhi, Australopithecus africanus, Australopithecus ethiopics, Australopithecus rudolfensis, Australopithecus robustus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo neanderthalensis, Homo sapiens, and others. The significance of Lucy and RD. What is significant about Lucy and RD? Donald Johansen and Tom Gray, who found Lucy's remains in Hadar area of central Ethiopia in 1974. Donald Johansen and his colleagues named the fossil after the Beatles' song Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, which played repeatedly at the night he made the discovery. Johansen serves as the founding director of the Institute of Human Origins at Arizona State University. Lucy is a fossil dated at about 3.2 million years, and Lucy was an adult female of about 25 years. She belonged to the species Australopithecus afarensis, and she was about 107 centimeter tall and about 28 kilogram in weight. Lucy also partly arboreal or tree-dwelling. Lucy represented one of the oldest fossil hominids. Lucy's skeleton was about 40% completed, an unusually high proportion for a fossil skeleton. Pelvis, femur or the upper leg bone, and tibia show that she was bipedal or could walk upright on two legs. Humerus and femur proportion were midway between the modern humans and chimpanzees. Lucy's brain was about the same size as that of a chimpanzee. So, Lucy's discovery was able to settle or resolve a debate amongst biologists at that time. Which came first, large brain or bipedalism? Clearly, bipedalism came before big brains. Lucy proved that bipedal upright walking went back as far as 3.5 million years. Lucy's pelvis contrasted heavily with the pelvis of a four-legged or quadrupedal animal like chimpanzee. A four-legged or quadrupedal animal has a high narrow pelvis with hip bones facing forward. But the human pelvis is squat and wide with the hip bones forming a bowl. So the lengths of humerus and femurs bones of Lucy were in between human and chimpanzee, but the brain size of Lucy was about the same size as that of chimpanzee. Pelvis, humerus, and femurs bones are greater than chimpanzee's pelvic, humerus, and femurs bone in position and length, but the brain size is almost the same. This data tells us that clearly bipedalism came before big brains. Both Lucy and RD are important fossils that explain the evolution of modern humans and chimpanzees from a common ancestor rather than chimpanzee itself. Scientists can estimate the height and weight of Lucy based on the length and size of her bones. Artists who are very knowledgeable about anatomy often work with scientists to create reconstructions of fossil hominids and hominins. They use casts of the fossils and build up muscles and flesh out of clay, paint them, and add hairs. The result is a reconstruction of what Lucy might have looked like. Scientists do not know exactly how much hair Lucy had, but she may have had less than chimpanzee and more than a human. The word Ardi means ground floor and Ramid means root in the Afar language. This suggests that Ardi lived on the ground and was the root of the family tree of humanity. Ardi weighed about 50 kilograms and could be up to 120 centimeters tall. Ardi was female bipedal and belonged to the species Ardipithecus ramidus. Ardi skeleton was discovered at Aramis in the arid badlands of Afar near Awash River in Ethiopia in 1992 and 1994. RD is the designation of the fossilized skeletal remains of Ardipithecus ramidus, thought to be an early human-like female anthropoid 4.4 million years old. It is the most complete early hominid specimen with most of the skull, teeth, pelvis, hands, and feet more complete than the previously known Australopithecus afarensis specimen called Lucy. RD was 1.2 million years older than Lucy. In all, 125 different pieces of fossilized bone were found. So, RD is the nearest fossil to the common ancestor of humans and chimpanzees that has so far been found. This finally proves that the common ancestor of humans and chimpanzees could not have resembled a chimpanzee because chimpanzees are not truly bipedal. Brain size and human evolution. Over the last million years of evolution, our brain underwent a considerable increase in size and complexity, resulting in the exceptional cognitive abilities of the human species. This brain enlargement is largely due to the increase in the number of neurons in the cerebral cortex, the outer part of the brain. During the course of human evolution, the brain has got bigger from comparing fossils that the cranial capacity has increased with each new hominid species. The brain has increased in size as a proportion of body mass. For example, Australopithecus have a brain that is between 0.7% and 1% of their body mass. Modern humans have a brain that is between 1.8% and 2.3% of their body mass. In this case, the brain of Homo sapiens uses 25% of the resting energy requirement, and great apes used 8% of the resting energy requirement. A large brain allows humans to develop many body functions like run faster, and stand in a more upright posture. Plan in advance to avoid any attacks from any types of organisms, and develop and use tools and weapons to live a better life as compared with other types of organisms on Earth. These abilities clearly also depend on other physical adaptations such as longer legs, more nimble fingers, and a straighter spine. But without the larger brain to coordinate the activities, the physical changes would not confer the same advantage. The brain sizes of different hominid species. As we can see from the diagram, the brain sizes of different hominids that lived in different times had increased in volume over time. The brain sizes of Sahelanthropus that lived about 7 million years ago was very small. The brain sizes of Australopithecus that lived about 4 million years ago was better or larger than Sahelanthropus. The brain size of Homo habilis that lived about 1.7 million years ago was greater than the brain sizes of the previous or former hominid species. The brain sizes of Homo erectus that lived about 0.7 million years ago was greater than the brain sizes of the former hominid species. And when we see the brain sizes of Homo neanderthalensis and Homo sapiens, it was the best. The modern human, Homo sapiens, that lived now on Earth has the largest brain size, that is about 1500 centimeter cubed in volume. As we can see, the skull size or cranial capacity of Homo sapiens, it is the largest of all pre-humans. We know that nowadays only Homo sapiens live on Earth. Are we Homo sapiens still evolving? Before we are going to discuss the answer to this question, first let us study origin and migration of Homo sapiens on Earth. Homo sapiens or modern humans first appeared in Africa and have since migrated to all other parts of the world. As humans moved from Africa into different areas of the world, they encountered different environmental factors or different selection pressures in different environments of Earth. This resulted in the different human populations which evolving along different lines like Negroid, Mongoloid, and Caucasoid major populations of Homo sapiens. For example, as humans encountered colder climates, body features that gave a survival advantage by helping to conserve heat were selected for. These features include the first feature is a shorter, squatter body shape. This squatter and shorter body shape reduces surface area to volume ratio and so reduces the rate of heat loss by radiation. The second features can be an increased layer of adipose tissues under the skin to act as insulation to prevent heat loss. The third features include increased hairiness. This is very fundamental to reduce heat loss by convection. Humans have been evolving into different races for thousands of years. One classification is based on recent genetic analysis of different races. There are three main races with several subdivisions. The first division is African or Negroid. This group contains people from Africa and Malaysians of the South Pacific. What are the general features of Negroid? These include dark skin, varies from dark brown, reddish brown to nearly dark. Dark, tightly curled hair of the woolly or frizzy type, less or great tendency to prognathism, eyes dark brown with yellowish cornea, nose more or less broad and flat, and large teeth. Eurasian or Caucasoid group or race. This group contain people with variable skin color ranging from white to dark brown. Caucasoid or Eurasian group contain three subdivisions, that is Nordic, Mediterranean, and Alpine. Nordic group are often tall and blonde and narrow-headed. This includes people from Scandinavia and Baltic countries, Germany, France, Britain. The third subdivision is Mediterranean. Mediterranean usually lighter in body build, dark and narrow-headed. This includes people from southern France, Spain, Italy, Wales, Egypt, Jews, Arabs, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. The third subdivision is Alpine. Alpine group usually characterized by broad head and has square jaws, olive skin, brown hair. Alpine includes people from countries in Mediterranean to Asia. The third race or main groups of Homo sapiens is East Asian or Mongoloid. Some of the physical features of Mongoloid are flat face with low nasal roots, accentuated zygomatic arches, flat-lying eyelids, thick, tight, dark hair, dark eyes, yellow-brownish skin, and usually short and stocky build. East Asian or Mongoloid race is the most numerous of the present-day populations and split into three groups. The first group is Eastern Siberians, Eskimos, and the Northern American Indians. The second group, Japans, Koreans, and Chinese. The third group, Indonesians and Malaysians. However, this classification does not include the Central African pygmies, Bushmen, and Australoids. Now, let's get back to the question, are we still evolving? The answer to this question is no. It seems that some thousands of years ago, human populations or races might have been beginning to evolve into separate species. That means due to different environmental factors or selection pressure, since they migrated from Africa to other parts of the world, certain physical and genetic differences were emerging between different races or populations. However, our large brain has intervened into two major ways to stop further evolvement into distinct species. The first way is our large brain helps us to develop the skill to design and manufacture all kinds of technologies from building to tools to clothes that helps us to prevent the impacts of different selection pressures or environmental factors. That means this effectively allowed us to become able to modify our environment rather than being modified or rather than having to evolve to adapt to certain environmental factors. Anyone can now live perfectly easily in Sweden or any other Nordic country without being modified or changed. That means, for example, we must simply wear the right clothes that helps us to prevent the impacts of different weather conditions or environmental factors. The second way that our large brain has intervened is the development of global travel. That means our large brain helps us to develop or innovate global transportation technologies like airplane, ships, bus, train, and so on. This has allowed humans of all races to interbreed That means throwing many of genetic differences that have evolved into a huge human melting pot. We may still evolve into diverse species, but at the moment, the mechanisms that usually drive speciation have been modified by our large brains.